Rigsters here, now with a game called From the Depths. This is a game where you build boats, planes, tanks, and even submarines. It's a block-based building game that's heavy on combat. It's a fun game, but it's also very complicated. So in this brief tutorial, I want to show some of the things I have personally learned through watching YouTube and reading Steam guides to make at least the basic of building boats much simpler. So first thing, before we do go into design mode, which is where we'll be in today, click on settings and then options. And then once you're in options, you'll see a whole bunch of list of menus. For now, we will be going to build options. And you'll see this particular one that I highly recommend changing from the default of 2. Hold the build once you get more comfortable with the game. Allows you to build blocks at a higher rate. That's how these I've noticed and watched and learned on YouTube and Steam of how they build so quickly. And just left click drag all the way to 4. I prefer that as well. Having it at maximum speed is a godsend in this game because it takes a pretty long time to build some of these crafts. It really does. Another thing for this tutorial, just so that it's easier to follow along, you can do mouse-based if you want, but I prefer, and the game suggests, to keep it on default keyboard-based building. You can use mouse, but I found it to be actually more clunkier than the key-based for the way the mechanics work. Close this window, and then let's go to Create and Learn, and hit Designer Mode. We're now in Designer Mode. The first thing you want to do is to get rid of this fortress for now, for the purposes of this tutorial. So you might be wondering, well, how do you do that? There's no button to delete all this. It's easy. Just press Escape, and then you'll see on the left here with your mouse, there is Destroy All Vehicles. Now when you do this, this deletes everything on this session. So if you actually were building and designing stuff, make sure you always save before you do this, in case if something happens or you have to go, or you wanted to change everything, or do a new map instance, just left click on that, and it will, ask to double confirm. It lets you know. Hit delete everything, and there you go. Now it's gone. To resume, of course, you just left click to resume. You're like, great. Well, how do you build now? You don't have a spawn-o-matic. Well, that's pretty easy. So first, to get into build mode, we press the letter B for build, which makes sense. But now you notice they have a block floating on the water. And you're like, well, I can start building. Yes, you can start building if you want to, but it's much easier if you have it in the air, but you don't know how to do that. Now the game does kind of show you on the left corner of your screen here, but it's kind of hard to see. So you want to press caps lock, and now you have your blocks in the air, which I know it's not realistic, but it allows you to build the boat. Much easier, I find, as well. Now you might notice on the bottom mid of the screen, I have these blocks in number, and they look like they're different lengths and different shapes. If you want to follow along with this tutorial in that aspect, press the letter E, and you'll see all sorts of blocks and parts and subparts and all sorts of stuff. Today, I'm just going to show you a simple one. So you want to move your mouse over, make sure you're in blocks mode, by left clicking on blocks, and then wood. So now we're in wood, and you might be overwhelmed by the sheer amount of different shapes that these blocks can do. And trust me, it is very overwhelming, but I'll make it very simple. You can organize these blocks for your number key bindings to make it simpler and easier. I prefer doing it in terms of having the lower numbers be the shortest length and the higher numbers longer length. We'll be using, just for this tutorial, beams. To do that, you simply mouse over to beams. We're going to start with the 2-meter beam. Left click on number 1. And now we'll put it on the number 1 key slot. Beam 3 meter, you left click on number 2. And beam 4 meter, you left click on number 3. So what this means is that number 1 will quick cut to wood beam length of 2, 3 meter for 2, and number 3 will be 4 meters for the beams. Primarily in this game, you want to have your foundation built out of beams because it is sturdier and also less processor and graphic card heavy when you make really big designs. Because if you just simply use blocks, it has to render all these individual blocks and they have less armor and weight. And sometimes you actually want heavier weights for certain boat designs as well. If you want the slopes, like I have, you just simply do left click on slope 1 meter on 4, slope 2 meter on 5, slope 3 meter on 6, and slope 4 meter on 7. So that means 1 through 7 on your number key bindings will be for beams and slopes. This will allow you to build a basic hull design. So if you want to get out of this, just press B. And then you see this block fall into the abyss. That's okay. Just press B again. And then caps lock. So now that you have this here, there's one other important thing I wanted to quick talk about is symmetry mode. Prior to learning this, I didn't know how to get the symmetry to always perfectly be parallel. There is a key binding for this. The default is N key, which does this. But sometimes, if you accidentally press N and you're facing the camera opposite, it will sometimes build it sideways, which is not what you always want. So to turn it off, you just cycle with the N key, and it will just cycle till it turns it off. There's a simple way of making it always perfectly parallel. You hold down left Alt and press the N key once, and now it will perfectly build in a parallel track. And since we want to build like just a basic rectangular shape, it's very easy to do. You just press the number 3. If you want beams 4 meter, that's what I'll be using. And then I simply use, when it's started here, this is red, you want to make sure it's green. Just left click on the left side of the block, like so. And now, if you did it correctly, you will have 2 4 meter wood beams in parallel to this singular cubular block. If you want to make this boat wider, you just simply tap the A key to the left, or if you like building towards the right side, you can also just hold down the D key or tap it. Tapping side is probably safer to get to there. And then just left click, like so. So if that, like this, now you might be wondering, well, I don't like the looks of this, how do I delete it? It's simple, you just go the opposite direction by tapping the letter D key in this case, and you'll see that the block will turn red. That means if you left click, it will delete, and if you do it correctly, it simply just deletes it, like so. So that is the basics of how to get started with wood blocks. On the next video, I will be showing how to finish this shape and how to use more of these key bindings for the various wood blocks that are placed on the number key binding. Hope you enjoyed this video. This is Rigsters Journey, signing off.